So it's Sunday morning, and instead of my usual banter, figured I'd start today off with a story. How's the story sound? Okay, so you had this zoo, really famous zoo, a zoo that everybody went to, uh, known for its animals. At this particular zoo, there was a lion, and the lion was one of the central attractions, okay? So everybody came and saw this lion, and, he was kind of just down on himself, He was stuck in this cage. I mean, it wasn't even that big. He'd have to do tricks and perform for people, and it was kind of really awful, actually. But the worst part of this lion's existence was every Friday, this man, who we'll call him Joe. This man named Joe would come to the zoo, pay the ticket, come to the zoo, go to the lion's cage, and when nobody was looking, Joe would reach in his jacket and he'd pull out a pellet gun and he'd position the gun at a certain angle, and when the coast was clear, he'd fire the gun and hit the lion. Now, this sounds really, really awful, but you'd be shocked how long this went on. And it got bad, and it was worse that nobody was able to catch this guy. This sadistic, screwed up, just twisted individual. He was able to get in and get out every time, and just through sheer perverseness, he kept going and going and going. And what was worse is this lion just, you'd think that the initial reaction was maybe he would have roared, he would have screamed, but no, he was in pain, he was hurt, he was terrified, actually. He couldn't quite get his head around what was going on. He couldn't quite understand what was happening. He just knew that this man had something to do with it, and it was causing him pain. To the point where he would just have to even see the guy. Every Friday, this guy named Joe, who drove a white car. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I just figured I'd throw that in there. As a detail. Joe, sadistic Joe, who drove a white car. The lion would see Joe, and as soon as he saw Joe, he'd immediately tense up. He'd just get really, really terrified. His heart would start racing. It's really, really awful. Then one day, Joe shows up at the lion's cage. He waits till the coast is clear, pulls out the pellet gun, angles it in a certain way like he always does, and before he goes to fire, something just clicks with the lion. He doesn't know what it is, but it's something deep, 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 deep down inside. Something just suddenly clicks into place. Time slows down. Nothing seems to matter but that one moment. The lion finds himself in a position he hasn't found himself in a very long time. And he leaps, almost like supernaturally, he leaps across the cage in a blinding, just a blur of speed, right? And he grabs Joe by the arm and rips Joe's arm off with the pellet gun. And when I say rip, he rips Joe's arm off. It comes off like like a toy animal, like it's like stuffing. Only it's not stuffing, it's people parts. And he just eviscerates this guy's arm. And just slings, it's awful. It's blood everywhere, guts. Joe is screaming, right? Joe's never even considered this ever in his life. It's just awful. It's so bad. people are gathering around. It's just pandemonium, you know? And I mean, this lion still, he's going into this arm. I mean, it's like, he's exhilarated. He's feeling something. He's exhilarated. He hasn't felt this in a very long time. Naturally, Joe dies from he bleeds to death, and eventually, you know, the lion is looked at as the bad guy, and oh no, what happened? And even the people who put it together, like, you know, this guy had a pellet gun. No, still the lion, evil lion, you know, he just snapped. But it doesn't matter. None of that matters. Even the fact that they eventually decide to put the lion down doesn't matter. What matters is that last moment before he took Joe's arm. What matters is that something finally woke up in the lion. And the lion remembered. The lion remembered a part of himself that he had forgotten for a very long time. In those split seconds before he ripped Joe's arm off and got what was due to him, the lion remembered who he was, and more importantly, what he was before he was put in that cage. And that is a beautiful thing, my friends. Have a good Sunday.